Peace, everybody. I'm back here on the History Relit channel. I had to make some corrections to the last video. I was listening to it and I made some kind of ridiculous mistakes. Starting at around, I think, 31 or 32 seconds in, I referred to Egypt as the daughter of Israel, which is just, I was absolutely speaking backwards. And in terms of the timeline, I made a couple of mistakes. I think at 1 minute and 10, I also stated the premise backwards that the Asar system, cultivation system, was going into Egypt when I meant to say that it was going into Greece. So the same idea of the biblical assertion that Israel was a vine out of Egypt relates to Osiris, because he is the god of the vine and a traveler, and in his aspect of men, as I've stated in some of the other recordings, he was also a founder of bloodlines in foreign nations. So I referred to the myth of Pelops, who was a Greek demigod who founded mainland Greece. The Peloponnese is named after him. And Pelops is Greek for grape. That's where we get the English word polyp. So it's a small round type object, like a small growth the size of a grape. That's where the word Pelops comes from. And he is, a legendary demigod whose name was given to the Peloponnese. And in that myth, it states that he gave his daughters away to wealthy travelers who established, vineyards in Greece. So he became wealthy by that vineyard technology being transplanted in Greece by Egypt. Okay, so even if you go back to the recording where I spoke about Europa, I even gave some biblical examples that are seeming references to the god Min, who is parodied or metaphorically referred to in Zeus's marriage to Europa. I'm not going to go into all the details of that story, but parts of the myth reflect the ritual of marriage of the pharaohs in their aspect of the god Min. So the quote-unquote rape of Europa is kind of a paraphrase of an Egyptian royal marriage. So the whole idea of there being like a common cultural core between the original Israelites, quote unquote, Hebrews, quote unquote, and the Greeks, quote unquote, is that they were all Europeans or Indo-European enclaves that were attaching themselves to Egypt's royal lines in Syro-Palestine, coastal Canaan, the Nile Delta, etc., in the Iron Age in biblical times. So they have that common core mythology about Osiris, Dionysus, and so on and so forth. Because even Europa, who was, like I said, in all actuality, a historical Indo-European bride taken into the royal Egyptian lines, she established the kingdom in Crete. And Minos, which is just a Greece-ized form of Min, gave her two sons whose names were Rad Amanthus, and the other son's name was Sarpedon. And Sar was just abbreviated Asar. the Egyptian Asar, who was the Greek Osiris. Sar is just an abbreviated version of Asar. And Padon, if you understand Greek, means to walk, right? Where we get pedestrian and so forth. So it's really kind of a corruption of an Osiris or Asar title, Asar the traveler. So Europa, when she connected with the Egyptian Min royal bloodline, had sons in Crete. And Minos, the historical Greek king Minos, is said to be the first lawgiver. And so he is, you could say, the Greek equivalent to a Moses, right? And even in the Israelite mythology, Moses is connected to the Egyptian lines as well. Now, I went on to speak about how we know historically about these connections of Israel, Jerusalem, etc., being an extension or annex of Egypt is during the time of Pharaoh Akhenaten. We know that there were historic archives that detailed actual historic governors of Jerusalem and Shechem and these different Israelite sites. So you have correspondences between the local governors and administrators who were beholden to Egypt. And again, when the term daughter is used in the Bible and the phrase daughter of Egypt, it's interpreted as a town or a district. So you have historical correspondences between Pharaoh Akhenaten and the lesser kings and governors in Israel, Judah. Okay, so in one particular correspondence, Israel is being attacked by a group, a semi-savage group known as the Habaru. Most scholars agree that this is the original designation for what later became Hebrews, right? So the Hebrews were these traveling marauders, freebooters. They hired themselves out as mercenaries to some of the larger semi-savage empires like Assyria and Mitanni and so forth. But they were actually a nuisance to the Israelites. A lot of people have taken to conflating the Israelites and the Hebrews as the same people. They were not. In biblical times, the Israelites were sort of initiates of Egypt, the Egyptian and Canaan religion. And if you look at the oldest etonym, etymological root of Israel, it is Asar El. It is literally a combination of the Egyptian god Asar hyphenated with the Canaanite god El. And if you look at representations of the god El, he's appears to be a black man sitting on a throne with this sort of toga wrap type robe on, but he's wearing the crown of Osiris. So the original connotations of the word Israel definitely had connections to the religions and culture, the indigenous religions of Upper Egypt, which is Central Eastern Africa, and Canaan, coastal Canaan. As a matter of fact, the whole region was referred to one time under Egypt as Ta-Nehisi, and the Nehisi are the Sudanese, the ancient Egyptians, Ethiopians, and so forth. But I have to cut this piece here for time. Until the next one, peace.